There it is.
Okay, we are streaming again. I'll try the screen out today. We might not use it every week, but uh, it will work good today, and so we'll go with that. So we're going to talk about King Ahab really the next couple weeks, and uh, so we'll get to some other things, but y'all should be able to see it on the screen. Um, you know, we still need some blinds that'll help some, but the resolution's pretty good. It just looks a little faded because but this is about the worst conditions you're gonna get because it's about midday, the sun's up right above us, really bright today, so uh, it's not really that horrible even as it is. So we will get the blinds that would help out here, and it would.
Actually, no, you got your turn off that set of lights and keep this set on.
Well, you could, but the problem is if we turn off. Oh, there is your. Oh, you've been summoned.
Huh?
Your wife's coming in.
Oh my goodness.
Uh
Again?
oh. Again, she found you.
Oh my man.
Just you. Oh, that's fine.
What do I do now? You have? Okay. Okay.
That's
That's
fine.
okay.
Do you
Thank
need
you.
to do you need to go or are you okay? Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the grandson.
Yeah, we know. Yeah,
Kevin.
Kobe's.
He was staying at Kevin, and Kevin got mad and thrown him out. So, I don't know. It's one thing or another around the camera back.
Yeah. Well. Oh well.
I'm gonna stay up here where it's quiet.
Stay up here where it's quiet. Okay. Well, we watch a movie or two. Uh.
No, you got a camera up there.
Well, it's the projector.
Projector.
Yeah. hmm
Uh,
Yeah. It's projector.
that's where the picture's coming
Yeah.
through. It
Uh.
was sitting up on the table over here.
Yeah. It's there permanently now, or
Yeah,
semi.
I heard that there.
Yeah.
Well, what's that high stuff up there? You fall out and hurt yourself.
After watching.
Yeah. Well, he put the project. I ran the power cords. Uh, yeah.
Stuff.
You're not squirrel hunting.
Well, now, we both commented though as we was getting up on the top part.
Yeah.
We was like, Tater probably don't need to be getting on this ladder anymore. Not up to the top
Told
at
me
least.
to off the ladder.
Yeah, that's what Larry and I both commented on. That's a little bit too much of ladder probably for you these days. Uh, but it came in handy. I tell you what, we was able to reach everything. Put the screen up last week, and uh, we needed it. Uh, and
I was going to turn off 10 on 109. I happened to look over at the hardware store and there's one, the ladder's on sale. I whipped in there and I bought the thing.
well, it comes in handy when you have to work up high. Otherwise, you'd have to have one of those lift things or have a scaffold of some type because uh, that's taught that can reach we can reach anything we need to with that thing.
Told Larry to keep it up here at church so he's always getting on them blasts and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Facebook.
and like here, so uh, actually it was pretty easy, a lot easier than I thought we would. We just used S hooks on the chains and hooked everything up. Got 4 chains here. Um, the power we discovered. Steve was here last week, and we was thinking we'd have to come all the way to the front because the power that powers these lights, the switches turn them off, and you need to be able to turn the lights off and still have uh, the thing projector on. So, but we discovered these on these columns of the ends, they stay on, and so we ran the power from there, run up there, and it comes in handy. The only problem is, as I told Larry when I was running that cable, so I plugged it in and hooked it up, and then it's like I could only do about 2 feet to each side. Then I had to climb down the ladder, move the ladder, climb back up it, and string it some more. So it is what it is. But we won't have to really do much to it. We may eventually change out a black cord or a white cord instead of that red and white one,
Mhm.
and we may. So I wouldn't bother doing any kind of zip ties, Larry, until because they may want to. When Rick sees it, he may want to get a black or white
We
cord.
got tied to up there.
It's not tied to anything other than looped around things.
White extension cord.
He will probably want a white extension cord, so I'll let Rick do that. Then I'll hang it back up for him. But well, we could do that too. Yeah.
Rip off and stay on.
Yeah. I'd say just spray paint it. But yeah, you could do that. You could do that. Uh, that's probably a future project. Uh, he may want to get spray paint the chains white too. All the chains are the metal core. He may,
Shine.
yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
being silver.
No, that isn't as noticeable as the cord, obviously standing out, but it is what it is. But anyway, this you can't hardly see. I can't hardly see it on this screen. I can barely. So this ain't really the projector or anything. It's just I could have zoomed into it on the screen, but anyway, we're dealing with Ahab, and we're talking about Naboth's vineyard, and I think this is. I don't really know where this picture is taken, but it probably looked similar to this. It was kind of a mountain area, and this is kind of the valley area. By the way, this wouldn't have been too far if you've ever heard Megiddo or Armageddon area. This is pretty much really close to that. It's where these events take place. Um, anyway, so we'll go and get started. It says in 1 Kings 21, 1 through 7. Yeah, that's pretty readable. Now, Naboth, the Jezreelite. Anybody know what that means by him being a Jezreelite? Yeah, it basically just means he's from Jezreel, Uh, Boonvilleite, I guess we could say, or a Waldronite, or I mean, you could do that with anything, but yeah, it just means he's from.
It's called parasites.
That's I like that. I have to remember that one. Yeah, that works good. Although, uh, so okay, so it's just Jezreel kind of was in the when the tribes were still defined better. It was close to Issachar, just north of the Manasseh, but it's in Israel by this time. So Jezreel. Now, what I want you to do is you got your Bible open, and you see where it says Jezreel had a vineyard in Jezreel. Let's see, 21. Yeah, vineyard in Jezreel. Uh, so 4392. If you look on your Thompson chain number.
Where you're talking about
Uh,
21,
21
chapter 21,
verse 1. If you look over to the side, it'll say Jezreel. It's about 3 or 4 things down. And ours has 4392. Yours might have a different number, or yours may not have a number because it's in the archaeological section. So
Jezreel supposed to be on the right side.
yeah, yours may not have it because y'all don't have the archaeological section. Yeah. So, but if you go to the archaeological section, if you have that, because it's large print, they had to cut out something. They cut out the archaeological. But if you go to 4392, it has a section on Jezreel. And so I'll just read it to you. It says, the city after which the valley of Jezreel was named is perched on the spur of a prominent hill at the foot of Mount Gilboa. Now, their mountains there are a lot like our mountains around here. Most of them are not really all that tall. So they're, compared to say the Rockies or something like that, or world type height from our mountains. But so the terrain now, it's more of an arid terrain in Israel, but as far as the topography, the hills and the mountains, it would look very similar to what things look around in Arkansas. Uh, it almost universally identified as Tel Yisrael. That's the modern village. The city itself, as well as the striking view across the valley of Jezreel and the plain of Armageddon, presents a panoramic view where many of the most stirring and tragic events of the ages took place. So we'll read more about it. The royal palace of Ahab and Jezebel stood out boldly in this promontory, and many of the perverse and wicked events of their lives took place here. Elijah, remember, girded up his loins and outran Ahab's chariot from Mount Carmel, and Jezreel, where Queen Jezebel vowed to take his life. And then we get into this story. This is going to take place. So it talks about Naboth's vineyard as well. So this vineyard, they would have been able to see from the royal palace. So they could look out and see, man, isn't that a nice vineyard? It's always producing a lot. Now, I don't know if you know about, we'll get to that in a second. It says in verse 2, after this, Ahab said to Naboth, give me your vineyard, that I may have it for a vegetable garden, because it is near my house, and I will give you a better vineyard for it. Or if it seems good to you, I will give you its value in money. So has Ahab done anything wrong at this point? He's saying, I'll swap out a better vineyard for this. I like this one because it's right next to my house and I want to make a garden out of it. If you don't want a different vineyard, I'll just give you the money of its value. Doesn't sound bad. But Naboth said to Ahab, the Lord forbid that I should give you the inheritance of my fathers. And Ahab went to his house, vexed and sullen because of what Naboth, the Jezreelite, had said to him, for he had said, I will not give you the inheritance of my fathers. And he lay down on his bed and turned away his face and would eat no food. So it's something that Ahab really wanted. It's like, oh, how nice it'd be to have a garden right next to the palace and look out and see the produce and all this, and make it so much easier for uh, me to have food, instead of probably been cheaper. And Naboth wouldn't do it. Why would Naboth not sell Ahab the land? Okay, so that's right. That's right. So he mentions that it was of his father's, it was his inheritance, and it would be in that line of family, whether it be Issachar uh, or Manasseh. I don't know which one he was part of, because it could really vary depending on exactly where it was. And so it was in the law of Moses, you could not, in the old law, you could not sell your land. Now, another little quirk about the law of Moses, though, what happened if you sold your land in 50 years, the year of Jubilee? It'd go back to its family, yes. So, but somewhere, it's not really sure exactly when they stopped doing that, obviously. But at one time, that's the way it worked. And so my guess is here they probably weren't observing, especially in Israel, they probably didn't observe the year of Jubilee anymore. And so my guess is Naboth knew that if he sold it, his family would never get it back. And so as a result, he said, I can't do that. And so, obviously he still had some allegiance to God and may have been a devout follower too. We don't know. But anyway, Ahab was just grief stricken. Now, so he's the king though, but what we see is bad as Ahab was at the time, he wasn't the ruthless one of the family. So we go on. She earns her bad name. Of course, she killed all them prophets, But here it says, but Jezebel, his wife, came into him and said to him, "Why is your spirit so vexed that you eat no food?" And he said to her, "Because I spoke to Naboth the Jezreelite and said to him, 'Give me your vineyard for money, or else, if it please you, I will give you another vineyard for it.' And he answered, 'I will not give you my vineyard.' And Jezebel, his wife, said to him, 'Do you now govern Israel? Arise and eat, and let your heart be cheerful. I will give you the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite.'" So, just take a seat. Everything's gonna be okay. I'll take care of it. So now let me ask you this. So although Ahab is not going to be privy to exactly what she does, is he any less guilty of what she winds up doing? He knew what kind of person she was. He knew that it would be nefarious, whatever she did, and yet he wanted the land. So he wasn't willing to go there, but he knew his wife would. So here's a map, kind of the general area. You see Samaria, and you see where Jezreel is at, and he had a palace in that general area, and you see where Megiddo is at, where all the battles took place. You see where Mount Carmel was when Elijah ran all the way to Jezreel. Good little distance there. And so you see that up on the map and where they're at. And 1 Samuel 8:14, you remember Samuel tried to talk him out of getting a king. And God relented and said, "No, let them have their king, but give them a warning again of what's going to happen." And so Samuel says, and he says he will take of a king, he will take the best of your fields and vineyards and olive orchards and give them to his servants. And by the way, everything Samuel said and prophesied about ultimately took place. And Numbers 36:7, as Larry had mentioned, the inheritance of the people of Israel shall not be transferred from one tribe to another, for every one of the people of Israel shall hold on to the inheritance of the tribe of his followers. So if you did sell, you had to sell it within your own tribe. And that obviously wasn't the case. So I can't sell it, Naboth says. Uh, Jezebel says, "I'll take care of it for you." So in verse 8, so she wrote letters in Ahab's name. Now, was that lawful to do? No. uh, but who was the only one that could have condemned that or said, "Don't do that," or "That's wrong"? King, and he ain't going to stand up to Jezebel. Wrote letters in Ahab's name and sealed them with his seal. And she sent letters to the elders and leaders who lived with Naboth in his city. And she wrote in the letters, "Proclaim a fast and set Naboth at the head of the people." So that sounds good. I'm going to have a big feast, and I'm going to put Naboth right as the in the head, the place of honor. Well, that was to get him there. Then she says, "And set two worthless men opposite him, and let them bring a charge against him, saying, 'You have cursed God and the king.' Then take him out and stone him to death." Okay, so why did she get two worthless men? Had to have two witnesses, especially for a capital offense. Was cursing God a capital offense in the law of Moses? It was. What was the punishment for blaspheming and cursing God? What kind of death? Stoned to death. Yeah. So here we have it. Yeah. So she sets them up. She has two liars, worthless men, and they were probably paid well, and they claimed he cursed God, he blasphemed against God, and even the king as well. And so they took him out and stoned him. And the men of his city, the elders and the leaders who lived in his city, did as Jezebel had sent word to them. Now, what do you think part of the reason they may have done this? What do you think they think would happen to them if they refused?
Probably gonna get killed anyway.
They'd wind up like Naboth, so better go along with what Jezebel says. Um, and did as Jezebel sent word to them. And it was written in the letters that she had sent to them. They proclaimed a fast and set Naboth at the head of the people. And the two worthless men came in and sat opposite him. The worthless men brought a charge against Naboth in the presence of the people, saying, Naboth cursed God and the king. So they took him outside the city and stoned him to death with stones. Now they would take one that was guilty, even Jesus, when he was crucified. It was outside the walls of the city because a death inside city walls would make the whole city unclean. There was a process to clean it, but in Jesus' case, it was during Passover. So they would have had to have, there was provisions for that, but it would have been kind of a messy time to wait and do a Passover later. And so that's why they took him outside the city walls. Um, Then they sent to Jezebel, saying, Naboth has been stoned, he is dead. Verse 15, as soon as Jezebel heard that Naboth had been stoned and was dead, Jezebel said to Ahab, well, guess what, honey? Arise and take possession of the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite, which he refused to give you for money, for Naboth is not alive, but dead. And as soon as Ahab heard that Naboth was dead, Ahab arose to go down to the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite to take possession of it. So, like I say, he didn't want to know about it, but he was happy because he got his vineyard. As far as they knew, everything's good. They got away with murdering somebody so they could get the land. They didn't have to pay a dime for the land. However, who sees everything? God does. So you can get away with things with men, but you can't with God. So it says, then the word of the Lord came to Elijah the Tishbite. Elijah was still this great, the great prophet. Arise, go down to meet Ahab, king of Israel, who is in Samaria. Behold, he is in the vineyard of Naboth, where he has gone to take possession. And you shall say to him, Thus says the Lord, have you killed and also taken possession? And you shall say to him, Thus says the Lord, in the place where dogs licked up the blood of Naboth, shall dogs lick up your own blood. And Ahab said to Elijah, Have you found me, O my enemy? Now, you have to love this interaction between Ahab and Elijah. In fact, Ahab and any of the prophets, they were always against him. There was that one prophet. Remember, he said, he always speaks evil against me. And Ahab said to Elijah, Have you found me, O enemy? And he answered, I have found you because you have sold yourself to do what is evil in the sight of the Lord. Now, you notice Ahab was afraid of Elijah. He'd seen things, and he knew that Elijah was indeed a man of the Lord. And so you would think a king would be like, well, have him killed, But he knew not to do that. He knew that God was with Elijah. Behold, I will bring disaster upon you. I will utterly burn you up and cut you off from Ahab, every male, bond or free in Israel. Now that does indeed come to pass eventually. And I will make your house like the house of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat. Remember, that's what happened to Jeroboam's descendants, like the house of Baasha. Remember, Baasha was the one that did that to Jeroboam, and then same thing happened to him, the son of Ahijah. For the anger to which you have provoked me, because you have made Israel sin. And of Jezebel, the Lord also said, the dog shall eat Jezebel within the walls of Jezreel. Now, when we get there, we'll remember this, and indeed it happens. Anyone belonging to Ahab who dies in the city, the dog shall eat, and anyone of his who dies in the open country, the birds of the heavens shall eat. There was none who sold himself to do what was evil in the sight of the Lord, like Ahab, whom Jezebel, his wife, had incited. They weren't a good parent. Ahab might have been okay if he'd had a godly wife, he acted very abominably in going after idols, as the Amorites had done, whom the Lord cast out before the people of Israel. So let's don't go there. Don't look down yet. What do you think Ahab's reaction to this is going to be?
Well, they're probably scared.
Okay, okay. I definitely think he was scared.
You can find some way. Well, anyway, Elijah, they're trying to discredit him.
Okay,
But I repented.
okay. Hey, well, we actually got the answer in there. We'll find out which one it is. And when Ahab heard those words, he tore his clothes and put sackcloth on his face and fasted and lay in sackcloth and went out dejectedly. Uh, and the word of the Lord came to Elijah the Tishbite, saying, "Have you seen how Ahab has humbled himself before me? Because he has humbled himself before me, I will not bring the disaster in his days, but in his son's days I will bring the disaster upon his house." So this being cut off won't happen in Ahab's time. It'll happen now. It really appears God really allowed Ahab multiple times to uh, better his uh, condition with him. And so Ahab is one of these people that you can't just say he was pure evil, because he would have these moments. However, he's also like a lot of people I've known. Things will come up, they'll repent. I mean, they're just, they'll be emotional and they'll change. But then time will come and they'll revert back to the way they were. Come back, and over they do this cycle. And sometimes they straighten themselves up and sometimes they stay out. Now, so I think it's important to do this, because next week we need to put into all these battles with Syria, and we find out that Ahab never learned how to make good choices. So sometimes he'd do okay when people brought up to him that he'd done wrong. But as far as making good choices, he didn't understand that those affect your condition with God. And so, anyway, but in this time, he truly, I think, repented. And God said, okay, he really indeed humbled himself. And God knows someone's heart. So it wasn't something he just did put on for show. And as a result, okay, well, it's still going to happen, but I won't make it happen in your life. Um, so uh, that's what we have. And so it's interesting that's the case. We're still pretty early. Uh, but so next week, what we'll do is we'll talk about his wars with Syria. So we'll have to go behind this and in front of it. But it all goes together as one theme. And that's why I think it should be done. If I were putting these parts of scriptures together, I would have put the Naboth's vineyard before the wars with Syria, because there may have been some gap, but it's all one account of showing Ahab's heart with that, and even gets in the. We've talked about that too with Jehoshaphat. He will tag Jehoshaphat in it, but to me, the Ahab account is more important and more meaningful. So, what does this tell us? It tells us a lot of things. There are some people like Jezebel that are just pure evil. I don't see any redeeming qualities in her. Um, and she was ruthless. She killed innocent people over and over and over again. Her demise is fitting for her life. Ahab, sadly, he had his moments. But another thing about that, how difficult is it when you struggle yourself with doing what's right, when you have someone that's just pure evil you're married to? How easy is it for you to overcome that? We sometimes don't think about.
Evil companions corrupt good will.
Yeah, they do. And so, that's just talking about who you hang out with. But if it's your wife, it's even more intimate, obviously, and or husband. It can go either way. And so it is more difficult. And so, when I was younger, a lot of times we would talk to kids about you need to marry a Christian. And the problem that we always used to back up at some point, started backing up on that's because, well, so and so didn't marry a Christian and they're now okay. Are you saying they did wrong? And so but that is red herrings, as they say, because the point is you marry a Christian that makes your chances of staying faithful better. Doesn't totally inoculate you. And it doesn't mean that if you did marry a non Christian, you can't be faithful. It just makes it tougher. And I would always recommend if you're not dating a Christian, your number one priority should be converting them. I think one of the stories that Ricky Clay told about Dee when he was started dating Carolyn. Of course, that age gap and the age that she was when she started dating him, would in today's society that would be people would be like, oh, that's awful, but it was a different time, and some people just can't understand what that meant. But anyway, they said when they'd go on a date, her mom had told her she brought a Bible with her when they went on dates, and so they would read and study from the Bible sometimes. So the point is, if you're dating a non-Christian, your number one priority before you ever get married is you should try your best to convert them. And I have found over and over, it's the easiest time to get them to come to church with you because they've got, motivation to do so. Because if they're not converted before you get married, guess what happens? They're no longer as motivated to come to church with you. And maybe when you have kids, you might can have an opportunity there. But truth of the matter is, it becomes much harder to convert someone after you get married. Not that it can't be done; it's just harder.
I told one of my grandsons there's playing.
Hmm. Yep, it's much tougher. You've got one that's dealing with the issues of how tough it is that uh, who he's with is not a Christian, and he's going to deal with that for years to come. I'm afraid. Uh, Not that it can't be overcome. It's just that it's going to be difficult. He's going to have to be really, really strong.
Dave used to work down a bowling ball plant,
Uh huh.
and there was at lunch. You go home, Carolyn still be in bed, so he'd come back, you know, fix himself to eat, and come back. And finally, his man working with him, he said, "D, I tell you, how to break her." He said, "I sure like to know." He said, "Just reach in there and get her by the heels and drag her off the bed there and let her hit the floor."
Oh,
He said he done that. He said, "Well, man, I got in trouble over
yeah, I bet. I bet.
it." He said, "I don't pay attention to them guys anymore."
Well, they told a story about where he worked. Where's that Greenwood? They did cabinets. What did they do there? Where he worked at? Hey, cabinets. Yeah. So he would bring his lunch, and he would shortly before his lunchtime he would kind of hide it and get it out, and he would uh, eat while he's supposed to be working. And then as soon as lunch hour hit, he'd go off and find a place and take a nap. So, but I think it was a character. I think it was Thursday. He would mow his yard every Thursday during the mowing season, rain, shine. They said that he'd be out there during thunderstorms sometimes, mowing his yard because it was, and washing his cars. He'd wash his cars whether it was sunny or raining. Uh, just the way D was. But anyway,
He kept his vehicles all cleaned up and the
yeah,
son-in-law, dad-in-law,
yeah, yeah,
and they just run it down where you talk about.
yeah.
They would.
Uh, well, D just he had that nervous energy to him, so he had to be doing something, and so it just kept him focused. Yeah.
He had Paul, Ray, and myself and Dave put that line from where the basketball goes out to
Yeah.
the ditch.
Uh huh.
And Paul Ray told him all day long. I said, Paul, let up on him. He said, well, I got to teach him. That's not the way to teach him.
Well, now it wasn't a secret that Lily Mae and Dee did not have the best of relationship. I never met Paul, so I can just imagine that it may have spilled over there too. But I know Lily Mae, they although it was sweet when they did finally tell her, they didn't know how she'd react, and she was sad by it. But Lily Mae and Dee didn't always see eye to eye on certain things. So
Now, Lily may tell you a story about him.
yeah.
So she, I don't know.
Yeah, she. Anyway, so they. Um, Lily Mae looks good though. I tell you, she was up. I mean, her mind seems. I think she's been at the hospital. I mean, at the nursing home. She's doing better because one, they make sure you take your medicine when you're supposed to, and I think that was always a struggle with her when she lived at her house. Them getting her to do that, and so she eats well. The right foods and stuff. Uh, but anyway, so um, anyway, it is tougher though. It is tougher. Uh,
This Anitra Barnett that they talked about last night in services.
yes,
She was in room 2. But she knows a lot of the congregation.
yes, she does from her.
Ryan Wood, Don
Yeah,
Woods was preaching.
yeah. Well, we need to make sure if
She
she's
was-
able, maybe come here for the
She-
humble.
She's confined to a wheelchair
Yeah.
because of her Parkinson's.
Yeah,
And
It-
she's just a little bit overweight because she's having to stay in a
Yeah.
wheelchair. She can't exercise
yeah,
because it's in her feet.
Yeah.
She can't stand on her feet.
Yeah.
But she was interested in being here on Sunday morning to take her to Lord's
What's up?
Supper. And of course, her husband said if she's feeling good and wants to come,
Yeah.
he would come over and bring her. So he usually comes over on Sunday anyway.
Yeah.
I talked to him.
well, she's Shirley Diamond's sister. Isn't she? Yeah.
There was 3 of them.
So you remember Shirley Diamond?
Yeah.
Okay, it's her sister.
Is her baby sister.
Yeah, she went to Waldron,
Yeah.
and
They-
but she knows because of her sister. She knows a lot of people here,
Well,
and
they also had somebody that her husband Rudy
Mhm.
and herself. Well, when the 3 girls were all at home, they lived in this area.
okay, so she knows from even farther back.
She knows
But yeah, and her and Danita have been talking a lot, and so anyway,
That Barnett. Nick and Ralph.
well, she married a Barnett. She was a Fuller when she was over here.
I knew Ralph Barnett. He's
He's game.
James Fish. Oh,
game one, yeah.
Fish.
Yeah.
For Muddy Creek area down South Florida.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the stream. We don't really have much time. We'll see you next week. I don't know. I may start keeping them a little bit more short so that people can watch a little more timely. But next week we'll get into Ahab and his battles with Syria. We don't have to leave.